You see, one of the biggest mistakes men make in relationships is believing that the more they please a woman, the more she will love and respect them. It sounds right on the surface, doesn't it? You give her everything she asks for, you bend over backward to keep her happy, and you assume that's the formula for respect. But let me tell you this, pleasing at the cost of your own self-respect doesn't win you admiration. It only makes you look weak. Respect doesn't come from how much you give, but from how much you value yourself while giving. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be kind, supportive, or generous. Those qualities are beautiful. But there's a fine line between being kind and being a pushover. When you constantly sacrifice your own values, your own time, and your own priorities just to keep her satisfied, you're unconsciously teaching her something dangerous. You're teaching her that your needs don't matter. You're teaching her that she can take without ever giving. And slowly, without you realizing it, she begins to see you as less of a man and more of someone she can control. Think about it. Every time you say yes when you really wanted to say no, every time you stay silent when something bothers you, every time you suppress your own desires because you fear it might upset her, what you're really doing is sending a signal that you are replaceable. You're teaching her that you'll tolerate anything just to keep her around. And let me ask you this, how can she respect you if you don't respect yourself? Respect is born from balance. A relationship thrives when both partners give and take equally. When one person is always giving and the other is always receiving, the relationship isn't love, it's dependency. And dependency never creates admiration. It creates entitlement. She starts expecting that you will always adjust, always bend, always sacrifice. She stops appreciating the things you do because they become the bare minimum in her eyes. And once that appreciation dies, respect isn't far behind. Women don't respect men who beg for validation through over-pleasing. They respect men who know who they are, who have boundaries, and who won't compromise their values just for temporary approval. If you want her to look at you with admiration, you have to show her that your world doesn't collapse just because she frowns or gets upset. You have to show her that your backbone is stronger than her mood. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man who's constantly canceling his plans just because she calls last minute. He drops everything to be there. At first, she may like the attention. She may even feel special. But over time, she starts realizing something. He doesn't have a life outside of her. And the moment she realizes that, she loses respect. Why? Because she knows she is the center of his world, while he is not the center of his own. Now, imagine another man. He values her. He loves spending time with her, but he also has his own priorities. If she calls last minute and he already has commitments, he'll say, I can't tonight, but let's do it tomorrow. He doesn't ignore her. He doesn't disrespect her, but he doesn't sacrifice himself either. She might feel a little disappointed in the moment, but deep inside, she respects him because she sees a man who values himself, who has structure, who has discipline, and who isn't desperate for approval. That's the difference. One man gives everything, and in the process, he loses respect. The other man gives with boundaries, and in the process, he earns admiration. Respect isn't about how much you sacrifice. It's about how much you're willing to stand for yourself while still giving love. So let me be very clear. Stop thinking that love equals losing yourself. Stop thinking that if you give her the world, she will never leave. Because here's the truth. If you lose yourself in the process of trying to keep her, you've already lost her respect long before she ever walks away. A woman doesn't want a man who is at her feet. She wants a man who can stand tall beside her. She doesn't admire the man who bends to every demand. She admires the man who knows his worth, who values his time, who carries himself with dignity, and who refuses to compromise his self-respect. That's the kind of man who inspires loyalty. That's the kind of man she looks up to. That's the kind of man she never forgets. So the next time you find yourself about to say yes when your heart is screaming no, stop yourself. Remind yourself that your value doesn't come from how much you sacrifice. It comes from how much you respect yourself enough not to sacrifice what matters most. If you want her respect, it starts with you respecting yourself first. One of the harshest truths that many men struggle to accept is this: the moment you tolerate disrespect, you silently kill the respect she has for you. Every relationship has ups and downs, disagreements, and moments of frustration. That's normal. But there's a difference between handling conflict with maturity and allowing someone to cross lines that should never be crossed. When you ignore lies, when you let manipulation slide, when you accept being taken for granted, You're sending a clear message. You don't value yourself enough to stand up for your worth. And if you don't value yourself, why should she? Respect is not demanded, it's earned. But once earned, it must also be protected. You cannot expect her to respect you if you allow her to treat you in ways that undermine your dignity. Think about it for a second. If she raises her voice at you constantly, criticizes you in front of others, dismisses your feelings, or ignores your needs, and you say nothing, what are you really teaching her? You're teaching her that there are no consequences for her behavior. You're teaching her that no matter how badly she treats you, you will stay. And when someone feels they can treat you anyway and still keep you, respect dies. A lot of men stay silent because they fear losing her. They believe that calling out disrespect will push her away. But here's the irony: by staying silent, by tolerating what should never be tolerated, you don't keep her closer. You actually push her further away. Because deep down, women can't respect a man who doesn't stand up for himself. They can't admire a man who allows himself to be treated like an option while treating her like a priority. Respect is built in boundaries. And boundaries are not about controlling her. They're about controlling yourself. They're about deciding what you will and will not accept in your life. A man with boundaries says, I love you, but I will not allow you to lie to me. I care for you, but I will not accept being disrespected. I want us to work, but I will not lose myself to keep you. That is strength. That is dignity. And that is what creates long-lasting respect. On the other hand, when you lack boundaries, when you keep making excuses for her behavior, you become easy to manipulate. You become predictable. She knows she can lie. She knows she can disrespect. She knows she can neglect you, and you'll still stay. And once she knows that, she no longer looks at you as a man to admire. She looks at you as a man to use. I want you to understand something important here. A woman doesn't always lose feelings because the love died. Sometimes she loses feelings because the respect died. And respect doesn't die all at once. It dies in small moments. Every time you stay quiet when you should speak up, every time you forgive without holding her accountable, every time you let her mistreat you without consequences, you chip away at her respect for you. Until one day she wakes up and realizes she doesn't see you the same way anymore. That's why you cannot afford to tolerate poor treatment. I'm not saying be aggressive. I'm not saying argue or fight every time something happens. What I am saying is have the courage to confront it. Have the courage to say, this is not acceptable. This is not how I will be treated. When you do that, you don't push her away. You actually raise your value in her eyes, because women respect men who respect themselves. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine she constantly cancels plans on you last minute. If you accept it every time, she'll keep doing it. She won't value your time because you don't value it yourself. But if you calmly tell her, I don't appreciate last-minute cancellations. If you can't make it, let me know earlier. She might be upset in the moment, but deep inside, she's registering something important. This man values himself. This man has standards. And is what creates respect. Or let's take another example. If she raises her voice at you during an argument and you respond by staying quiet just to avoid conflict, she may win the moment, but you lose something bigger, admiration. However, if you calmly say, we can discuss this, but I won't continue if you're yelling, you're showing her that you won't engage in toxic behavior. Again, she may not like hearing it, but she will respect it. The point is simple. The way you allow her to treat you sets the tone for how she will continue to treat you. If you don't demand respect through your actions, you'll never receive it through her words. And let me remind you, respect is the foundation of love. Without respect, love turns into pity, tolerance, or obligation. And you don't want any of that. You don't want her staying because she feels sorry for you. You don't want her staying because she knows she can get away with anything. You want her staying because she looks at you and says, this man stands for something. This man values himself. This man is worth respecting. Another mistake that silently kills respect in a relationship is when a man becomes needy and insecure. Now, let me be very clear here. There's nothing wrong with wanting love, attention, or reassurance from the person you care about. We're all human and we all want to feel valued. But there's a difference between desiring love and being desperate for it. When you constantly chase after validation, when you rely on her approval to feel good about yourself, you stop being a partner and start becoming a burden. At first, it might seem harmless. You text her all the time, you ask if she still loves you. You worry when she takes a little too long to reply. But slowly, it starts to show her something that you might not even realize. You don't trust yourself. You don't believe in your own value. You don't think you're enough unless she keeps reminding you. And the more you depend on her to reassure you, the more she feels suffocated, not respected. Think about this for a moment. When a man is confident, he doesn't need constant proof of her love because he knows who he is and what he brings to the table. He's not worried if she's busy. He's not anxious if she needs space. And he's not insecure if she's not giving him attention every single second. His self-worth doesn't depend on her reactions. But when a man is insecure, everything she does or doesn't do becomes a threat. If she takes too long to answer, he assumes she's losing interest. If she's quiet, he thinks she's pulling away. If she compliments someone else, he feels inferior. And that constant insecurity drains the relationship. Women don't respect men who are needy because neediness isn't strength, it's weakness. It shows a lack of trust in yourself and in turn a lack of trust in her. You can't expect her to see you as a strong, reliable partner if every little thing shakes your confidence. Respect is built on stability, and stability comes from within you, not from her constant reassurance. Let me put it this way: when you're secure in yourself, her presence in your life becomes a beautiful addition, not your entire source of happiness. You don't need her to complete you. You're already complete. You don't need her to remind you of your worth. You already know your worth. And that kind of confidence is magnetic. That's what makes her look at you and think, this man is solid, this man is grounded, this man I can trust. When you're needy, when you cling, when you beg for attention, you start to look like someone who has no life outside of her. And that's when she loses respect. Because the truth is, no woman wants to feel like she's dating a man who would collapse if she walked away. She wants a partner, not a shadow. She wants someone who can stand beside her, not someone who hides behind her. I've seen so many men make this mistake. They think that the more they show their need, the more a woman will feel loved. But in reality, it has the opposite effect. It pushes her away, because love doesn't grow in the soil of desperation. It grows in the soil of confidence. When you're secure, when you give her love without demanding constant reassurance in return, that's when she feels safe with you. That's when she respects you. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a relationship where she goes out with her friends. If you're secure, you trust her, you let her enjoy her time, and when she comes back, she finds a man who is calm and collected. But if you're insecure, you blow up her phone with messages, you accuse her of ignoring you, you question her loyalty. What do you think happens over time? She stops enjoying her freedom, she feels controlled, and most importantly, she loses respect for you. Not because she doesn't care about you, but because she realizes you don't care enough about yourself to be steady without her constant attention. Confidence is silent, insecurity is loud. A confident man doesn't need to announce his worth. He lives it. He walks into a room and doesn't wonder if he's good enough. He already knows he doesn't need to compete for attention because his presence commands it. And that is what women respect. Not the man who clings, not the man who doubts himself, but the man who stands tall regardless of who stands next to him. So if you find yourself constantly seeking reassurance, constantly feeling anxious about where you stand, it's time to step back and ask yourself why. Because the problem isn't her. The problem is that you haven't built your own confidence, you haven't grounded yourself in your own value. And until you do, you will always look to her to fill a void she cannot fill for you. Understand this. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean acting like you don't care or playing games. It means being secure enough in yourself that you don't need constant reminders of your worth. It means trusting that you are enough, whether she's right beside you or not. And when she sees that strength in you, when she feels that stability in you, that's when respect flows naturally. There is something every woman instinctively looks for in a man, whether she admits it openly or not, and that is direction. A man with no vision, no goals, no drive may still win her affection in the beginning, but over time he will lose her respect. Why? Because without purpose, you lose the very essence of what makes you admirable. You see, love alone isn't enough to keep respect alive. She can love you deeply, but if she cannot look at you and see someone who knows where he's going, that love eventually loses its spark. Think about it. When you first meet someone, the attraction might be physical, it might be emotional, it might even be based on chemistry, but what sustains admiration is seeing consistency, discipline, ambition, and growth. If you're the same man year after year, with no evolution, no pursuit of something greater, no hunger to build, she stops seeing you as a man to admire and starts seeing you as a man to settle with. And the moment she feels she has settled, her respect begins to fade. A man doesn't need to be rich to be respected. He doesn't need to have achieved everything. But he needs to have direction. He needs to show that his life is not stagnant, because respect is born in movement, in progress, in knowing that you're not where you want to be, but you're doing something about it. A man with purpose carries an energy that speaks louder than words. It's in his posture, in the way he talks, in the way he carries himself. You can sense it. He's not wandering aimlessly. He knows where he's headed, and that's magnetic. On the other hand, when a man has no vision, when his days are wasted in laziness, when he has no goals and no sense of direction, she starts to lose faith in him. At first, she might try to motivate him. She might encourage him. She might push him. She might even make excuses for him. But after a while, she stops, because a woman cannot respect a man she has to mother. She wants to support you, yes, but she doesn't want to carry you. She wants to stand beside you, not drag you forward. And here's the truth. Your direction doesn't just benefit her, it benefits you. As a man, having purpose gives you confidence. It gives you structure. It keeps you disciplined. When you wake up with a vision, you carry yourself differently. You don't need to beg for respect. You naturally command it because she sees you putting in the effort. She sees you pushing forward. She sees you striving for something bigger than comfort. And that makes her proud to stand next to you. Now, let me make something clear. Purpose doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out. Life is not about having every step mapped perfectly. It's about having a direction you're moving toward and the discipline to keep moving. Even if you stumble, even if you fail, even if the road takes longer than you expected, the fact that you're on that journey already sets you apart. Because a man who is striving is far more respected than a man who is stagnant. Think about how differently she looks at you when she sees you working late on your passion project, or when she hears you talking about the future with conviction, or when she notices your consistency in pursuing your goals. That creates a sense of admiration. She feels safe with you, not because you're perfect, but because you're moving. She knows you're not a man who will waste his life waiting for opportunities. You're a man who creates them. But if she sees you sitting around unmotivated with no vision for yourself or your future, that's when disappointment creeps in. And here's the dangerous part. When disappointment becomes consistent, respect disappears. And once respect is gone, love loses its foundation. Women don't need a man who has it all. They need a man who is on his way. They don't need you to be flawless. They need you to be focused. Because focus is what tells her that you are not wasting your potential, that you're not letting life slip by, that you're not waiting for someone else to build your world for you. A man who has purpose, even if he's still far from achieving it, is far more respected than a man who has none. So ask yourself this: where am I headed? What am I building? What kind of man am I becoming? Because the truth is, she's asking herself those same questions about you, whether you know it or not. And if the answers aren't clear, she starts to lose faith. She starts to doubt, and doubt is the enemy of respect. You don't need to conquer the world to earn respect. You just need to show her, and more importantly, yourself, that you're not standing still. You are moving forward. You are evolving. You are growing. Because in the end, respect doesn't come from words. It comes from direction. One of the most underrated yet powerful qualities a man can have is emotional strength. And let me tell you, a woman may love your looks. She may admire your charm. She may even be drawn to your success. But if she doesn't see emotional stability in you, her respect will slowly fade. Because emotional strength isn't just about controlling anger or holding back tears. It's about how you handle pressure, how you carry yourself when things don't go your way, and how steady you remain when life throws challenges at you. Every relationship will face moments of difficulty. There will be disagreements, disappointments, even phases of uncertainty. And in those moments, a woman looks at her partner to see if he crumbles or if he remains calm. If he falls apart, if he reacts with emotional outbursts, if he lets jealousy, anger, or insecurity dictate his behavior, she cannot admire him. Because respect doesn't come from seeing you lose control. It comes from seeing you stay composed when it's hardest to do so. Now, I want to be very clear here. Emotional strength doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It doesn't mean pretending you're a robot who feels nothing. No, real strength is the ability to feel deeply, yet still choose how you respond. It's about mastering your emotions instead of being mastered by them. When you're angry, strength is not yelling. It's choosing your words carefully. When you're hurt, strength is not shutting down. It's communicating with clarity. When you're jealous, strength is not accusing. It's trusting yourself enough to know your worth. The truth is, women respect men who are steady, because steadiness builds trust. And trust is the foundation of admiration. If she feels that every little situation shakes you, if she feels like she has to tiptoe around your moods, if she feels like she can't rely on you to stay grounded, then she cannot look up to you with respect. But if she sees that you can handle pressure, that you can control your impulses, that you can process emotions without being ruled by them, then she sees a man worth respecting. Think about it like this. If life is a storm, she doesn't want to be with a man who panics every time the wind blows. She wants a man who can hold the ship steady. She wants to know that no matter how chaotic things get, you won't lose your balance. Because when you are steady, she feels safe. And when she feels safe, respect naturally follows. Emotional weakness, on the other hand, creates distance. When you're overly reactive, when you lash out, when you let your fears turn into accusations, you push her away, you may think you're showing passion, but what you're really showing is a lack of control. And the moment she realizes she has to manage your emotions for you, she no longer sees you as her partner. She starts to see you as her responsibility. And nothing kills respect faster than that. I've seen it so many times. A man becomes overly jealous, questioning her every move, demanding constant explanations. He thinks he's protecting the relationship, but in reality, he's suffocating it. Or another man can't handle rejection, can't handle disappointment. So every setback turns into an emotional breakdown. She may comfort him for a while, but deep inside, she loses admiration because she cannot respect a man who collapses under pressure. Now, let's look at the opposite. A man who knows how to channel his emotions with maturity. He feels hurt, but instead of exploding, he communicates. He feels jealous, but instead of accusing, he trusts. He feels angry, but instead of yelling, he expresses himself with calm authority. That's strength. That's discipline. And that's what earns long-term respect, because she sees that your emotions don't control you. You control them. And here's the beautiful thing about emotional strength. It doesn't just make her respect you more. It also makes you respect yourself more. When you realize you don't have to react to everything, when you realize you can hold your ground, even in emotional storms, you feel powerful. And that inner power radiates outward. She senses it, she feels it, and it deepens her respect for you. Understand this. Emotional strength doesn't mean you never feel pain. It doesn't mean you never cry. It doesn't mean you have to be hard all the time. In fact, vulnerability is also a part of strength. The difference is in how you handle it. Weakness is letting pain turn you bitter or reckless. Strength is feeling the pain but choosing to grow from it. Weakness is allowing emotions to dictate your actions. Strength is allowing emotions to inform you, but not control you. And that's what separates a man who loses respect from a man who gains it. The way you handle your emotions tells her everything about who you are. Do you crumble under pressure, or do you stand firm? Do you let jealousy dictate your actions? Or do you trust in your value? Do you lash out in anger, or do you communicate with composure? These are the moments where respect is either built or destroyed. Because the truth is, she will never respect you if you don't have the emotional strength to lead yourself first,